Sharing my screen once it just say yes in chat box so that we can start our session. I think in last class, I think we are yet to discuss 3, 4 topics. Okay. I think we covered still yesterday. We covered safety survey and safety study, and another 4 slides which are pending from the last class. Okay. Once we cover this, we'll go to the next topic. Is it my screen visible? Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, safety tour. So basically, it is also an unscheduled examination of the work area. So carried out by the work managers or safety committee members to ensure that the standards of housekeeping are at acceptable level, even hazards are removed and safety standards are observed, and the scope is less than that the safety inspections. It is a kind of general inspection of the workplace. It is just an safety walk tour, or we used to call a safety walk. Even sometimes the management also they'll just go through the work area, or I can say that to the plant area to understand the existing standards and practices or meeting the requirement or not. Then safety review. This is also another kind of appraisal to reduce the uh, accident and also to prevent the accidents. It's in a purpose to identify unsafe conditions or operating procedures that are could lead to an accident. It ensures that the plant and procedures match the design intent and standards. The procedure is initiates application of new technology, reviews operating procedures, reviews adequacy of maintenance and safety inspections, keeps plant personnel alert to the process hazards. So when we say review, it cross checks the procedures which we have made, they are meeting the designed intent or not. Whatever the procedures which we have created or drafted, those are in the right direction or not, those are meeting the process requirements or not. Okay. Then GMP. So the GMP, it is a very big topic. Even we can discuss uh, whole week or whole month. So with our syllabus constraints, we'll just have a high level this thing. So what GMP and all, especially who working in pharma industry, they are well familiar with these practices. So when I say GMP, it is nothing but a good manufacturing practices. So this was developed by the Pharmaceutical Manufacturer Association, USA, in 1961, and the GMP regulations were issued by USA Food and Drug Administration in 1963, and was sequentially adopted in 1969 by the WHO. Started developed in 61 and issued in 1963, and it is accepted by WHO in 1969. So this concept originated for the quality control in pharmaceutical industry is also useful for the other industries because it helps to overall improvement in the manufacturing practices for quality elements of man, machinery, material and methods. Basically, this GMP looks basically on the quality of the products. So it is indirectly helping the safety by looking whatever the men which are chosen for the operators, whether they are well trained or not. They will look for the machineries, whether the machinery is in healthy condition or not, the materials, the quality of the materials, material handling, disposal, storage, then methods. So here all our procedures, work instructions, all your practices, uh, method statements, everything will comes under methods. The GMP looks all these four elements to make it a good quality a product. So here some of the points what GMP majorly focuses on. One is hygiene part, then product security and importance of labeling, defined procedure SOPs or standard operating instructions or procedures, and cross contaminations, housekeeping, and safety. So these are the few concepts the GMP majorly takes care of. And then GMP brings us a nearer to the ultimate good product with the built-in quality and safety. So basically, the ultimate goal of this GMP is to give a good quality product along with a safety. And also WHO requirements for GMP are personal premises equipment, sanitation, starting materials, manufacturing operations, labeling and packaging, quality control systems, self inspection, distribution, records and also complaints, report of adverse reactions. All processes, procedures, records, and systems are clearly defined. Personnel and operators are trained, and records are well documented for quality and safety assurance at every stage. So, here they will see all the aspects with respect to materials, with respect to the people, with respect to the equipments, and also record maintenance. So, record maintenance is a very key aspect, especially in the GMP for each stage. So, that is the very key area. It plays a role to take GMP further, because without documentation, without records, will not understand the status or the progress of your manufacturing process. Even batch records or even batch sheets. So especially if I take an example of production entry where you make the batch sheet, you will write different parameters, temperatures, the combinations, compositions, etc. So when I say total, I think I think this is different topic. Okay. With this, we can conclude this topic, which is plant and safety appraisal systems. If you have any questions, we can discuss. Meanwhile, I'll go to the other topic. I'll just take 1 more minute time to bring up the presentation here. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, you can ask.
चला ना.
Okay. Okay. So welcome again. So we are going to start the major accident hazard control. This is also one of the important topic in IS 104. The paper name is Quality Control in Occupational Safety, Health and Environment. So we'll try to understand what is exactly this MAH and why it is required, and what are the various control measures we have to take with the MEH installations. Okay. Okay. So if you see MAH, major accident hazard control. So, or major accident hazard. So, with the growth of chemical industry and use of hazardous chemicals, the world had seen many major accidents during last 50 years. But the concept of major accident hazard control came in our country after the Bhopal accident, which has happened in 1948. Most of the people are familiar with this Bhopal accident. Almost 25,000 people have been died, and also lakhs of people have been affected. Still, that effect is carrying with their upcoming generations also. So thereafter, there is a constant rise in the bulk storage, hazardous processes, heavy transportation of dangerous chemicals. This needs to realize and take appropriate safety measures to identify and prevent the major accident causes and to mitigate their consequences. So after the Bhopal accident, Indian government has been realized, and they came up with these MAH systems because the storage quantities have been increased, manufacturing process have been increased, even transportation also increased. So resulting, there should be a control. They have started this. So when we see the concept, so there are a few definitions. So for the definition, this we have taken from MS ITC rules, which is manufacture, storage, and import of hazardous chemicals, 1989. We cover this topic in IS 105, which is legislation paper. So when we say a major accident or major accident hazard, we can rule number two, which is there. If you go to specific definition, a major hazard means the hazard which arises because of hazardous nature of the substances, and second is its storage quantity equals or exceeds the threshold quantity prescribed in MSIHC rules 1989. There we have three different schedules, schedule 1 and 2 and 3. There they clearly defined what are the list of chemicals and their threshold quantities. Threshold quantity means if I say any chemical, chemical A, it should be maximum of 10,000 KL or 1,000 KL. You should not exceed that limit. If you are exceeding that limit, it is in a major hazard or major accident zone. So this is the definition in MSIC rules, rule number 2J and 2JA. These are the sub rule numbers in 1989. Okay. So here it is not only about hazard in nature and also its storage quantity. Even if you are exceeding your storage quantity also, you will fall under this definition. We should be always within the limit. Okay. So when I say a major hazard is due to the isolated storage or industrial activity that has the potential to cause extensive damage to the man, material, and environment within or outside the site boundaries. This is another definition. When I say a major hazard due to is isolated storage. So isolated storage means sometimes you'll have storage vessels bigger in this thing. Then also the industrial activity, your activity itself, it created a major hazard. So it has the potential. So here they are not telling, okay, all your operations will it can leads to an accident, but it has a potential. అంటే దానికి ఏదైనా ఒక పెద్ద ప్రమాదాన్ని కలిగించగలే గలిగే శక్తి కలిగి ఉంది. సో దర్ ఇస్ ఎన్ ప్రాబబిలిటీ. They are not telling that okay, every pharma company it's like a bomb, but definitely yes, it is a nature of activity, but it has a potential to an extensive damage. Extensive damage in the sense a major damage to man, material, environment within the facility, I mean within your organization boundary, sometimes it may extend to outside the organization boundary as well. Okay. The statutes of this legal requirement, MSHC rules 1989, even this is Gujarat, even AP also we have these rules. In 1996, defined the major accident hazard in the chapter 28. We'll see that in our legislation paper. So these are the just a glimpse of a major accident which has happened in the worldwide and their statistics. If you see in 1949, and if you see in India in 1984, 2,500 and 25,000. Sorry, I am mistaken. So 2,500 is the death cases and 25,000 is the injury cases. And the chemical involved is methyl isocyanate. It is a toxic release. Okay, most of them are explosions, methane, fire, explosion, Blivy, fire, explosion, toxic release, fire, explosion, toxic release, Blivy, atomic radiation, toy factory or plastic toy factory. These are the sets. This is not the latest one, but just to have a glimpse. We've seen the worldwide, the major or the catastrophic incident happened in India in 1984. After that, the MSIC rules in 1989, the government has been developed and initiated. Okay. So after the Bhopal disaster has remained at the top and also opened the eye throughout the world regarding the major chemical hazards, their consequences and controls. So all such accidents differing in mode of happening and the chemicals involved have some common features. So even though there are different cases, like if you see uh, in the last table, all are not our toxic release, all are not our explosions, all are not our fire. There are different way of the accidents are happening, but there are few common commonalities in that accidents. So if I say the commonalities, they were uncontrolled event caused by fire, explosion, or toxic release. So we can't able to control uncontrolled events. They result in death, injuries of large number of people inside and outside the plant, and they caused evacuation of people of the surrounding area, and also they caused heavy damage to the plant, property, and environment. So these are the some of the common features with this accidents. One is they are uncontrolled events, and second is the result in death or injury of large number of people within the facility or outside your facility. Then evacuation of people of the four surrounding area, and also causes heavy damage to the plant, property, and environment. These are the common, either it is in fire or either it is an explosion, either it is in a toxic release. Then the storage, a process, use and handling of such flammable, explosive or toxic chemicals pose high potential to cause disasters and are normally referred to as major accidents. If we say storage, process, use of such flammables, explosive or toxic chemicals pose high potential to cause disasters are normally referred to as a major hazard. Whatever the chemical, sometimes chemical with a quantity of 1 kg also be a major hazard. Okay, their potential is due to their inherent nature or property of the chemicals, their quantity, type of process, a way of handling, sudden failure of some part of the plant, including vessel, equipment, fittings, pipe, and vehicle. So these are the different the characteristics of the chemical to result in a major hazard. Okay.
Inherent nature means, sir, what?
ఇన్హెరెంట్ నేచర్ అంటే లోపల దాగి ఉన్న స్వభావం అనొచ్చు. ఇన్హెరెంట్ నేచర్ అంటే అంటే బయటికి కనపడదు, బట్ దెర్ ఇస్ అన్ ఇన్హెరెంట్. ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ పెట్రోల్, బట్ నార్మల్ ఇట్ లుక్స్ లైక్ అన్ వాటర్, బట్ ఇట్ ఇస్ అన్ ఇన్హెరెంట్ నేచర్ ఇస్ it can create in a fire accident.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So these are the some of the characteristics. Sometimes their quantity also matter. Sometimes how your process అంటే మీరు చేసే ఏమంటారు మ్యానుఫ్యాక్చరింగ్ ప్రాసెస్ ఆల్సో కెన్ లీడ్స్ టు అన్ మేజర్ హజార్డ్. Then sometimes the way of your handling, how you are handling, if you are not handling such a chemical, I mean such a hazardous chemical, not properly, then also it leads to a major accident. Okay. Then sudden failure of some part of the plant. So as we see in total loss control or damage control, whenever you lose control on the hazard, then it is result into a damage. That is also one of the case. It can leads to a major hazard or accident. Even fittings, if you say failure means it may be in a vessel, the failure of an equipment, or failure of an fittings, or failure of an pipe, or any transporting vehicle. Now we'll see some of the main objectives of the major hazard control systems. So the main objectives are, so to distinguish between minor major accident potential, and to set a priority for identification, inspection of major hazard works first or more frequent. It is simple that this objective is to differentiate which are minor and major accident potential industries, and to define hazardous chemicals by defining its fire, explosion, toxicity criteria, and to define the threshold quantities for storage, use to classify the work as MEH installation. This is an other major objective బై నేచర్ ఆఫ్ ది కెమికల్. అంటే ఎటువంటి ఏ ఏ రకమైన కెమికల్ అది, అంటే దానివల్ల ఫైర్ అవుతుందా, లేదంటే ఎక్స్ప్లోషన్ ఏమంటే జరిగే ఛాన్స్ ఉందా, లేదంటే విషపూరితమైన వాయువులు ఏమన్నా రిలీజ్ చేస్తుందా. సో బేస్డ్ ఆన్ నేచర్ ఆర్ టైప్ ఆఫ్ ది కెమికల్ దే విల్ డూ అన్ సెగ్రిగేషన్. దెన్ దే విల్ డిసైడ్ ఏ థ్రెషోల్డ్ క్వాంటిటీ. థ్రెషోల్డ్ క్వాంటిటీ అంటే మ్యాక్సిమం, అంటే ఎంతవరకు మనం బేర్ చేయగలం. సో ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ ఇఫ్ యూ సీ అండ్ థ్రెషోల్డ్ లిమిట్ ఆఫ్ యువర్ ఇంటేక్, ఫుడ్ ఇంటేక్ ఈస్ up to, you can take 1 kilo of rice, that is your threshold. Somebody can take 2 kilos of rice, that is their threshold. The maximum you can able to bear, or the maximum you can able to uh, store, that is a threshold quantity of their storage, use and classify for the works as MEH installations. When I say MEH installations, which are the chemical factories, they are storing the defined chemicals in the MSIC rules. అంటే ఏదైతే ఫ్యాక్టరీలు ఎంఎస్ఐసి రూల్స్ 1989లో 1 to 3 షెడ్యూల్స్లో ఉన్న కెమికల్స్, వాటిలో ఉన్న థ్రెషోల్డ్ క్వాంటిటీస్ స్టోర్ చేస్తూ ఉన్నాయో ఆర్ మ్యానుఫ్యాక్చరింగ్ చేస్తూ ఉన్నాయో, వాటన్నింటినీ కూడాను మనము ఎంఏహెచ్ ఇన్స్టలేషన్స్ అంటారు. when I call it as an MEH installation, so it has to meet the requirement of MS IHC rules 1989 schedule 1 and 2 and 3. Then only you will be call it as MAH installation. To define the list of hazardous processes to identify the use unit as an MAH installation. So even processes, so some processes also become MAH installations even though you didn't have such chemical quantities. To make intact and also implement the law of MH chemicals works or isolate storage by providing statutory provisions and requirements. To make and implement some of the legal requirements, especially for these installations. Then to identify the major hazards, develop and utilizing the special techniques like hazard risk assessments, hazard operability study, fault analysis, inventory analysis, consequences analysis, vulnerability analysis, environmental impact assessment, etc. As mentioned earlier, and also carried out a plant safety inspections by various methods mentioned. So this is also one of the objective to identify the major hazards and defining the techniques to prevent the accidents. These are some of the techniques or methods we use to identify and control the hazards in this image installations. And also to take all possible preventive measures based on identified major hazards to prevent the causes of such hazardous events. Training and education may be incorporated. This is also another objective. Take all possible preventive measures. So all possible means, so practically possible preventive measures. You can't say that, okay, I don't have money, it is not possible. No, all possible, the techniques which are available around the world, you should implement based on the identified major hazards, based on the hazards which are, for example, you may see that there is a chance of toxic release. So, what kind of controls you should have? There is a chance of explosion. What type of controls you should have? There is a chance of fire hazard. What type of controls you should have? All possible, practically possible measures you should implement. Then to foresee the consequences on the workers, public and environment in the case of any possible major accident may occur, and to work out an emergency action plan to control and mitigate the effects. So based on the MSIHC rules, so you have to make on-site emergency plan, if I'm not wrong, rule number 9 and rule number 12. One is off-site emergency plan and one is on-site emergency plan. And even though these MSIC installations, I mean MH installations, has to undergone through the every year third-party safety audit. Okay, that we'll see detailed discussions in legislation paper discussion. Okay. Now we'll see about major components of this MH control systems. Again, definition, identification of MH installations based on the type of hazards. That is one of the component, and information about installations like safety report, safety manual information should be given to the workers, public and authorities. When we talk about control systems, you have to give your installation, you have to give the manuals or the information with respect to your processes and also safety controls. Then assessment of major hazards by works management and also competent authorities. Cause, effects, consequences, and safety measures must be assessed. So here you have to uh, assess your the hazards as well as the impacts associated with the identified hazards by the competent authorities. Then control of causes of major industrial accidents by detecting causes by following sound engineering management practices like good design, fabrication, installation, operation, maintenance, inspection, and use of good safety equipment and instrumentation. So there it talks about how your uh, uh, design is strong, how your controls, all the things has to be considered. Okay. Then safe operation of major hazard installations by training to workers, following SOPs, and also investigating accidents and near misses. This is also one. We should have safe operations of major accident installation and training to the workers. So we have to train all the workers who are under MH installation. It does not mean that only MH installation has to train. No, even non-MH installations also definitely there will be a chance of emergency situation at their level. అంటే వాళ్ళకి తగ్గ మ్యానుఫ్యాక్చరింగ్ ప్రాసెస్లో వాళ్ళకి తగినంత ఎమర్జెన్సీ సిచ్యువేషన్స్ క్రియేట్ అవుతుంటాయి కాబట్టి సో వీ షుడ్ ట్రైన్ ఆల్ అవర్ వర్క్ ఫోర్స్ ఆన్ handling of emergency situations and how they can safeguard themselves during the emergency situations. Okay. So for the sake of time, I'm stopping here. So we can discuss after the break.